Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of 10 Minute Marvel. I'm your host, Petter, and with me, as always, we have
It is Greg, everybody.
this week. There's one piece of news we're going to touch on quickly, and then we're going to be going through kind of the next 2 weeks Marvel Phase 4 retrospective. This week, we're going to be ranking the 7 films that came out for the MCU. And then next week, we're going to be talking about the Disney Plus shows, ranking those for Phase 4. And the following week after that is Christmas, or Christmas is that Sunday before. And so we will not be releasing a podcast episode that week, but we will be back to start the new year with, well, who knows what? There'll probably be a whole bunch of news to talk about by then. But before we hit on the one piece of news, I just want to thank you all for listening. I hope that you're enjoying the podcast. If you are, please consider subscribing, sharing with your friends, or leaving a rating and review. You can find the podcast over on iTunes, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and Spotify. So, the one piece of news, and this is going back to actually the first episode that Greg was on, I talked about the Marvel Snap app that came out, and this app still going strong. I'm still loving it as I play it. It's about, if you're looking to get into this, it's probably half an hour of your time a day to kind of complete all the missions. But this won Best Mobile Game of the Year at the Game Awards 2022, which just happened. I believe this might actually be a week behind when it should have been announced or covered. It's a good app if you're looking to check out something else and looking for a new app game to play. So, main topic, we're breaking down our rankings of Phase 4 movies. There are 7 of them, and I don't know what order Greg has them in. He doesn't know what order I have them in.
Nope.
So, let's
It's
jump into this.
yeah, it's a surprise. You can go first if you want.
All right.
Yeah, go for it.
My number 7 is Black Widow. And this one, I think it's just a little bit lower on the list, or at the bottom of the list, because it's for a character that we already know their fate. I had a lot of fun with this film. In fact, it's kind of like that spy espionage thing. It is my favorite that Marvel's done to this point. So I enjoy it, but it felt like it came out kind of too late. And while it was great to get introduced to like Elena and the Red Guardian, it's one that I don't know how excited I'm going to be to like watch it again repeatedly.
Fair. And well, I'm gonna leave it at that, and I'll say mine because I'll probably say more about Black Widow once I go and once I pull it out of my rankings. So,
Yep.
I think it's a very fair spot for you and for anybody else to have that in the number 8 or lower part of Phase 4.
7.
So I said 8 again, didn't I? God, for some reason there's a mystery eighth movie out there that I feel like it happened, but it didn't. Okay, so my number 7 was the Eternals, and that really, I think, I think it was really more just I didn't care about enough of the characters. Like I don't know, like it was I didn't really have a lot invested. I felt like in the characters, and I don't know, like it just fell short in too many areas for me. So the storyline, I feel like it almost needed like I agree. I think people have said it should have been a series, and I think that's what it should have been. I think I would have been much more happier with it, but I ranked it at 7.
Yeah, that's my number 6. So I'll just talk about it right now as well.
Okay.
I'm with you on that. I think it feels like it probably should have been a series just to get to know the characters a little bit more. I think a lot of the characters were a lot of fun to interact with and to start to see their story, but it was weird in that it introduced a whole team at once, and that ended up getting a little bit rushed in the feel of the movie. However, I think that movie, in terms of, I mean, maybe all of these movies left the most open, like, hey, there's about 4 different movies that could come out of this, or that 4 different things that could be mentioned again. Like with the Eternals who are in space, we have these celestial that is sticking out of the earth. We have Dane Whitman, and we have Arishem having why can't I think of the character's name? But having taken her to him basically to judge Earth. So there's a whole lot left to explore there, and I'm curious to see what is going to come from it. But in terms of a movie, I think it's one that might get better the more we see the characters in the
Yeah,
MCU.
because there's another one. Are they really going to do a second one? Are they?
Uh, to
Or is
be
this just
determined.
okay?
Theoretically, yes, but I mean, for sure, the characters, most of them are coming back. I
Yeah, I
believe
would assume
even
so.
some of them have like filmed stuff for other shows or stuff. So
Oh,
already,
okay. Yeah. Yeah. I think there's obviously more story to tell, and I think they should continue, but I just this just kind of was like, nah, I don't
yeah,
know. So I will jump to my number six, because it's actually Black Widow. So I wanted to mention that my choice for it being at number six was I too I thought it was a fun movie. I never really was bored. I thought there's some pretty good humor, like the comedic part of it, the was really
yeah,
good.
yeah,
But and the action was pretty decent. It was cool. There's some good action in there, but like you said, just didn't make it necessary enough, I think, in the whole grand scheme of things. So I think they could have maybe done a little bit better job at that. But I still enjoyed it. So I
oh
put it
yeah,
at number six.
yeah. And Yelena, getting the introduction to Yelena, I feel like was worth it because
Yes.
we're gonna see her. I feel like a fair amount more.
Yeah. Yeah. Florence Pugh was really, really good in there. And I just liked the way that she bounced off of Scarlett, even David Harbour's Red Guardian character. I thought they all kind of they meshed pretty well. So
Yep. So my number five is Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. This one, honestly, it might move higher if I were to watch it again. It's just been a while since I've seen it. I think I only saw it in theaters, and like some parts of it, the choreography of some of the battles, things like that, are just it's so good. It's that crouching tiger, hidden dragon
hmm
that works in the Marvel setting, and they do a good job with that. The Ten Rings, I mean, it's a beacon to somewhere. There's a whole bunch, again, a number of like plot points of like, okay, what's being signaled? What's Shang-Chi's sister going to do with the Ten Rings now? What have the Ten Rings been doing in the past? Because like we get to see hints of them again. And Shang-Chi, I think, is just one where it falls into that category of this is a really fun Marvel film, but not one that does anything major to stand out from the rest of them.
yeah. I thought the third act. Okay, okay, and by the way, this is my fifth as well, so we matched up on this one. Um, I felt like the third act was just I don't know, like the jump to the dragon part,
Hmm.
just like it pulled me out of the movie for some reason. Like, and it was I don't know, just riding the dragon and so it just seemed a little bit cornball to me, and I don't know much about Shang-Chi really that I don't know the comics that well, but I thought I can forgive the Jackie Chan slap versus Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon like fight scenes. I actually like both styles. Would I wish they would have chosen one? No, I think it was kind of fun to go in both sides, right? I think both were really well done. I would
Yeah.
love to see more of it throughout the movie, but I know those fight scenes are really probably very hard and intense and hard to choreograph. But that dragon, I don't know, like I didn't like the big dragon, and I just don't know where Shang-Chi falls. I mean, obviously the Ten Rings, it's going to be yep, it's beaconing out to something. There's something major behind it. How is he going to play a part in? And this is maybe more of a stab at the actual character, like, but how is he going to do anything in the larger story arc, right? Of
Yeah.
the phases coming up. But cast was great and action was great, and I actually enjoy watching it, but it just kind of still falls farther down the list for me. So
So my number four, and I was debating. So like my number three and four could flip on a given day, and my number one and two might flip on a given day.
hmm
But my number four is Thor: Love and Thunder.
Okay.
And this one, I just like I really enjoy this one. I like Taika Waititi's humor throughout. I like how absurd it is at the start, which really seems like Korg's narration. How much of it is actually accurate or how much of it is embellished is kind of fun to think about.
Yeah.
And Gore was like Christian Bale was a really good bad guy in it with pretty sympathetic reasons, very sympathetic reasons for being a bad guy. There were just parts that they didn't work quite as well. I don't think the humor and the emotional storyline were blended as well as in Thor Ragnarok. And the scene with all the gods and Zeus and everything like that was longer than it should have been. It was just forcing in more jokes than was actually needed in that moment. So
Hmm.
it's a lot of fun, and it's one that I gladly watch again and come back to. I'd probably even put it up there with ones that I would pull out and watch just because it's easy watching.
Yeah.
But I
It's a,
wish it could have just been a bit more.
it's one of those that like it shows up on TV, and you're like, I'll
Mhm.
just sit down and watch this because it's entertaining.
Yep.
I too put it at the number 4 position on the list, and I pretty much echo the same things you had said. Like, it seems like it could have there could have been some parts that could have been filled in a little bit more, and the movie could probably it would have gone longer, but I would have loved to just get a little bit more of Jane and
Yep.
the battle that she was having with it, and kind of it just seemed really convenience not the word, but it just seemed to jump so fast, and I'd like to see that develop a little bit more. I wanted to see. I don't know who I was listening to. Probably was New Rock Stars, I'm guessing, but they had mentioned Gore kind of got shortchanged. Like he did some nasty, like God killing, and you didn't really get to see it. And maybe that's okay because it doesn't need to. You don't need to make it too graphic and whatnot. But I never really got that sense of, God, he's just a terrible person, right?
Yeah.
I more like empathize with them most of the time, and I feel like it would have been better if I would have empathized him with the same amount, but also kind of loathed him from what he was doing a little bit more. And we didn't get to see that more evil side of him. But this is the one that I did see with my son in the theaters, and like we had a blast because it was it was funny. It was fun to watch, and it just didn't seem as solid as Ragnarok, like you said.
So then my number three is Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. This is one that I was hoping going into phase four that this would be my number one because I love Doctor Strange. I love Scarlet Witch and the whole idea of this multiverse. I was like, this is going to be awesome. It's Sam Raimi. And honestly, I really do love this one. This is Sam Raimi's horror style is one that I have so much fun with because there's so much camp and so much just absurd like gore or not so much gore in this but and not Gore the God Butcher in this either but
It's more embellishment of
yeah.
the gore aspect, or like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like I know a lot of people probably don't love the fight between Strange and Evil Strange with the music notes, but like that is so classic Sam Raimi that it worked for me. I enjoyed those things where I'm like, oh yeah, I can see Army of Darkness, I can see Evil Dead. And it introduced I would say one of the characters that I'm really excited to see more of on the screen with America Chavez, just because like the casting was so good for that character and her powers are so insane. I was just, like I said, if you were to ask me my biggest disappointment of phase four, it's probably Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness because I had such high expectations for it. And it still makes it to my third favorite one on the list, not because the rest are bad, just I wish it had been more.
Yep. And okay, this could be a really boring podcast today because I have the same thing. It's the same spot. I chose Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. for my number three. And I had a ton of fun with this movie. I thought it was a little too campy, and I thought it was a little bit too much Sam Raimi for my taste. But where we went with it, and all, I mean, there was so much fun things with the Illuminati that you got to
Yeah.
see, and the different some of the different worlds. And yes, I would love to if they expanded on it and more. But and yeah, the fight scene between evil Doctor Strange, not my favorite. Um, but I still loved Scarlet Witch's role, and I loved that it's really about she just is trying to get her kids back, and like she's just, I guess I'm a little bit of a sucker for that kind of, oh, I don't know, her reasoning for doing what she's doing. I guess
Mhm.
I have sympathy for that. So it wasn't my very favorite, just because I think I wanted more out of it. But um, yeah, it was. I was excited for it and anticipating its release, and when I got to see it finally, it didn't really let me down. So
So my number two is Black Panther Wakanda Forever. And this one, it gave me what I wanted, I think, from the first Black Panther film. It gave me the really good character development that I feel like the first one was kind of missing. We got not just character development of kind of like the main character of Shuri, but we got to see Angela Bassett as Queen Ramunda just go off on Okoye, and we gotta have Namor. Just that performance of Tina Huerta was so good, or Namor, I guess is they're pronouncing it. So it's really hard to find an issue with that. And obviously, we did the episode on it, and our quibbles were mainly just that, pretty small quibbles with it.
mhm.
And I feel like they did a really good job with a situation that was tough with Chadwick Boseman's passing, and it exceeded my expectations for it.
So my number two was No Way Home. So Spider-Man No Way Home. So we actually differ here. Here's where we split. And oh man, and like you said at the beginning of the show, you asked me tomorrow, it could change because obviously Wakanda Forever is fresh in my mind. But when I was thinking about it as I was kind of making my list, it was Spider-Man No Way Home it was really well done. It I loved the multiverse, and how we pulled in Toby and Andrew Garfield, and they did a amazing job all working together. It was a good story. It was a little bit um, heavy villain-handed almost at times. It was one of my favorites that I've seen in a long time. I thought they did it really well. I thought Holland's performance and spoiler alert, if you haven't seen it by now, you should not be listening to this. You should be watching that show. But Holland's performance after Aunt May dies is just like, it was really, he really just took it home. It was great.
Mhm.
So I think that this one fell to number two for me. Um, Partly, I think because I don't even know why actually. I wonder if it's just there was something about it. I think that just kind of rubbed me a little bit the wrong way, and now I can't even remember what it is. So there you go. Like it's almost like a contender with number one. So I don't know. I had to choose one. So
Yeah.
kind of, obviously mine ends up being Wakanda Forever. So
Yeah. And I guess for me, probably what puts it over the top is I have that connection with the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, less so with the Andrew Garfield one. I thought those movies were just okay. But with the Tobey Maguire, that's one of the first comic book type superhero movies that I saw. And so to see him back on the screen with the current Spider-Man, I thought worked really well. To see these iconic villains, to have Doc Ock back again, just such a good performance. Plus, like you mentioned, Aunt May's dying. And the thing that I think kind of helps push it up for me was an interview after the fact where, or maybe it was before the movie came out, I forget which, but either way, I heard about it after. And it was how the whole trilogy is really Spider-Man's origin story. We went from we didn't have to see the spider bite to get the origin story. We didn't need Uncle Ben to die to see the origin story, but we went from this fairly public character, someone who's trying to live in two worlds, being Spider-Man and being Peter Parker, to now we have kind of that more classic comic book Spider-Man who is that street level hero kind of all by himself. And that makes me excited for future Spider-Man stuff they might do. But I think looking at it from that lens too, it makes it even tougher to kind of like watch and see Tom Holland's Spider-Man give up everything he holds dear.
Yeah, which and okay, so when you're talking about that, it reminded me of what irked me about it a little bit.
Mhm.
And it's petty, but it was I think it was the scene where it's like it's just at the beginning, more at the beginning of the movie. Everybody knows who he is, right? And then he kind of
Mhm.
goes into this hiding for a while, and then Matt Murdock comes and everything's okay. And like it just kind of like blew through it. And I'm
Yeah.
like, well, that was kind of, and it just seemed really abrupt. And like I don't know. I think that bothered me at the time about it. And there might have been another. I think the whole spell that and reasons for what he was doing. I know it fits his character to like kind of be a young kid who's just trying to fix whatever he's done wrong, and I don't know, but like it just seems like Doctor Strange would have like said, "Hey, hold up, like a little bit more, and like, hey, pause and think about this for a second before you ask me to do this." And then also, why would he do it? I don't know. So like it was like more of these plot holes that just kind of irked me enough to where I didn't. It made me not like the movie as much.
Mhm.
It just kind of, and sometimes I can let that stuff go, but something I can let that stuff go for for this movie. So that aside, I loved everything else about it.
Then you're number one, which we already know what it is, but that always
Yep,
happens when you have
that's
a set pool.
that's right. It's Green Lantern. No, just kidding.
Yes.
Um, yeah, Wakanda Forever for me. I don't think I need to say too much about this, just because we just had an episode on this, and in short, it was, I think, everything that I just really want from a Marvel movie. I want the drama. I want the action. Um I want to really feel those characters and their emotions. And really felt like I got that out of it, along with just some of that fun stuff that we love to see. The action sequences, the comedy was there. It was a great tribute to Chadwick Boseman. And like you had said, for the end product, for what they had to go through and the time they had to go through it, it's pretty impressive, and it's a beautifully shot movie, I think. So it just hit so many green lights for me, that
Yeah.
I put it at number one, and it may continue on being that way. Well, I guess I would, if we were to rank, I'd be kind of curious to see if we would have ranked like phase 1 through 3, where I'd put that. But don't make me do that, because that's a lot of thinking, and it's a lot of thinking at 9 o'clock at night. So,
Yeah.
but yeah. Anyways, that was my number one.
Yeah. Eventually we will rank like everything against each other, but I
I,
I want to find a good gap for us to
yeah,
be able to cover that.
I should start preparing now.
Looking at the list of phase 4, so the where we differed was you had Eternals at 7, I had Black Widow, and then we had the opposite one at 6, and
Mhm.
then with our 1 and 2 we were flipped as well, so pretty similar
Mhm.
overall. So challenge question.
Challenge. Okay, so I honestly, I have one actually, and then I kind of thought of another one while you were talking that I kind of like better. And
Okay.
I'll be honest, I have not put a ton of thought into this, but my challenge question. And again, I'm a little bit tired tonight, so it's going to be kind of a simple one. But what two Marvel characters, good or bad, would you like to see team up? And maybe it could be maybe just a show, or it could be a movie.
So existing MCU characters.
You know what? I'll let it. I'll let it branch out. I want you to do existing, and I want you to do non-existing at this point, but
Okay.
possible.
Yeah. So non-existing at this point, we actually covered when we did
Hmm.
the characters we want to see show up in the MCU. That'd be
Yep.
Gambit and Rogue.
Okay.
I want to see those two together. Don't really care what it is. Just give me those two characters.
Okay. So then, how about choose one of them, and then with a current, like actually existing character that's happening.
Well, if I were to do a new character with an existing character, I think that would be different with that. So one that immediately pops into mind would be Thor and Beta Ray Bill.
Okay.
I think that could, just to have somebody else again wield the power of Thor or to take over the Stormbreaker mantle. And it's a crazy character to kind of put in there, this horse-faced alien that has the power of Thor.
Yeah, that would. I mean, I feel like that's a really good natural next step for Thor's character, almost, or at least to be with somebody like that.
Mhm.
So that's a good call. I like that. I did not actually think of one. I was trying to think of one as you were talking, and um, I'm at about 50% capacity right now, so it's not coming to me.
Well, Scarlet Witch and Mephisto, another good one.
Oh, that's another good one. Um,
You toss in another one, unless you have it.
nope, go for it. I'm coming up with
I
nothing.
think it'd be interesting to see Kamala Khan and Charles Xavier, since she is a mutant now, to see kind of those interactions. I think would be fun.
Hmm.
Just for like, it's a dynamic that, since she's inhuman in the comics, that we'll never see in the comic books of her, like, of them being on the same origin.
Yeah, I was thinking. I just don't know who to pair him up with, but I was thinking old Cap with somebody. Would old Cap count? So like,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, just but I'm trying to think of who. Like, if it would be Yelena Belova, or if it would be like Kate Bishop, something like that. I'm just trying to think what character would fit well. It feels like it should be a young one. I'm thinking like an old and young, kind of like what you're thinking with
Mhm.
Xavier and Ms. Marvel. So I don't know.
I mean, I think technically it would be two characters who are currently in the MCU with Old Cap, because somewhere,
Oh,
somehow he exists, but Old Cap with Namor,
oh, yeah, that'd be good.
because they both hold such strong convictions.
Yes, that is. I agree. That'd be good. I did break my own rule on that. So
Yeah,
thank you for calling me out on that. Again, 50%, going 50%.
the rules are made up.
Yeah.
But with that, let us know what character you'd like to see currently in the MCU and not in the MCU team up in a show, movie, whatever it might be coming up, and leave those down in the comment section over on nerdologists.com, or tweet them to me at the Scando or with hashtag 10minmarvel. Also, I mean, leave your rankings too for the 7 movies that came out in phase 4. How do you rank them? How do you put them on your list? But with that, again, thank you so much for listening. Give a few ways you could help support the podcast at the beginning, but there is also a Patreon at patreon.com/nerdologists. The funds there go to help improve the quality of this podcast, as well as the Malts and Meeples YouTube channel and nerdologist.com website. But with that, I'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening, everybody. Have a good night. Take care.